Good morning everyone, and welcome to the webinar entitled A Checklist to Ensure Your Presentations Are a Success. The reason I do this webinar is just to give people a framework and an idea of all the things they should consider as they're preparing to go on stage or deliver a workshop. A lot of people focus on their content and they keep polishing this speech, keep polishing the presentation, but there's so many other things that are worthwhile checking, and if you put all those things in place, you can just ensure that your webinar, your presentation, your seminar, your facilitation is more likely to succeed. A few of you just joining us, we've only just started. For those new faces on the webinar, please ask questions as we go, type in any comments, take notes. You can ask me questions after the webinar, just send me an email and think, how does this information apply to me? What might I do differently? What might I include in my next presentation? How am I going to check that everything's ready for my next presentation? What additional checks and balances might I now do as a result of this webinar? Have a fair bit of information, so I need to move fairly quickly. So feel free to type in your comments as we go. That would be great. Why have a checklist? Just a couple of quotes here that I like to use. First of all, one by Robert Schuller. And spectacular performance is always preceded by spectacular preparation. So you know those people that seem to do remarkably well, whether it's at job interview, at responding to questions, at meetings, and you think or you assume they're naturally gifted as a speaker. They always seem to have that contingency plan in place. It could be that they've done fantastic or spectacular preparation. And then the next quote, sorry about that, let's bring that back up. The next quote by Sean Covey, he's Stephen Covey's son. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is Stephen, and Sean wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teenagers, so a chip off the old block. We become what we repeatedly do. So the preparation is part of that repetition. So what checklist? What do I mean by checklist? This is my 10-point checklist, and I'm going to go through them one by one, but quickly. Have you got your nerves under control? Have you done the right level of preparation? Is your speech set out in a simple structure? Have you crafted a memorable and persuasive message? Have you got the right attitude? What's your body, your eye contact and your gestures doing? How are you using your voice? Are you using the platform effectively? What audio visuals, PowerPoint slides, flip charts, are they engaging? Are you using them effectively? How will you receive feedback? Do you have a feedback loop within your presentation? Feedback is one of those things that's really going to help you grow. So welcome to those people who are just joining. We've just got underway, and these are the 10 steps in my checklist that I'm going to share with you one by one. Have to move quickly because this is a 30-minute webinar rather than a 1-hour webinar. You can type in questions as you go, and you can ask me questions, of course, after today via email at any stage. So have you got your nerves under control? Do you have some quick relaxers that you can use at any time? Are you prepared for anything? Those what ifs, the difficult questions, what if the power goes out? What if your DVD or your video doesn't play? What if the internet's not quick enough and your video you wanted to stream doesn't work? Have you got a positive mindset? Are you approaching this speaking assignment as an opportunity and recognizing there's going to be lots of lessons and no mistakes? Do you understand your nerves and their role, putting you in your peak performance mode? If you're about to compete in a sporting event, a grand final, a race, you're probably getting nervous. If you're about to go on stage as an actor, even the Hollywood actors talk about that pre-performance anxiety. So please understand the role of your nerves, but do have some quick relaxers ready so that you can bring them back under control if you need to. What do if you get a little bit nervous? Have you got those tools at your fingertips ready to go when you go on stage, when there's a bigger crowd, when someone is sitting in the audience who you weren't expecting to be there? Oh, the Director General or the CEO is there. Or as one person described to me, his role was simply as an Aboriginal man to acknowledge country, to welcome people to country, and sitting in the front row was Julia Gillard, Prime Minister, and he did not know she was going to be there and completely blew him. He got really nervous. So what do you do when those situations happen? You need to have your nerves not abolished, not zero, but under control. Have you done the right level of preparation? Who's the audience? What is their problem? What's their pain? Is Julia Gillard going to be sitting in the room, or your Director General, or a heckler, a known heckler? The venue, arrive early. Do you need a microphone? Make sure that your audio visuals are working. Is the room set up how you want it? Know your content. What if you only have half the time to deliver your presentation? What if PowerPoint doesn't work? What if the power goes out? Can you still deliver your content? What if a speaker doesn't turn up and they now want you to speak for longer? All of this is what we call being able to plug and play. Are you able to plug and play? So no matter what happens, what barrier, power goes out, your time gets cut in half, no matter what is put in your way, you are able to succeed. That's called plug and play. And that comes with great preparation. So make sure, know your audience. Are there any cultural nuances? Do you need to acknowledge the traditional landowners? Whose land are you on? Your venue, is it too hot? Is it too cold? How's the lighting going? Do you need to warn people about anything? This is your responsibility. So have you done the right level of preparation? Is your speech sent out in simple steps? Rather than reading from your script, it's really good if you have a mind map. So a mind map for me is first 30 seconds matters. Start strong. A quote. Start with a story. Statistics that grabs people by surprise. This is your ending, the last 30 seconds. Nail your ending. What's your take-home point? Are you going to summarize? Is there a call to action? 3 points in your main speech. What are the 3 reasons? 4 points are okay. When you get to 5, 6, or 7 steps, it gets a little bit too much, a little bit information overload. And clarity of purpose. Is your core message clear? My core message from this particular webinar is if you do the right level of preparation, not just polishing your speech, then you can be really successful just about every time you speak. Do your right level of preparation. And of course, why? Just a moment. Why is it relevant to the audience? And this is about stepping into your audience's footsteps, recognizing their pain and solving a problem for them. Is your speech set out in a way that helps you to plug and play and helps engage the audience? And of course, stories are very powerful. Have you got the right business stories, which is a webinar in its own right, your own case studies that illustrate your points? So you're saying to somebody, you need to do preparation. That reminds me of a story when I went to a webinar. It was a financial webinar, a financial workshop, and the guy arrived 5 minutes after starting time, plugged in his laptop, connected to the internet, but he couldn't connect to the internet. He had to call in the admin staff, and they played around, and 30 minutes later, half an hour late into a 3-hour seminar on this financial services software, we started late. He was off to a bad start. The business story that illustrates the point that I'm trying to make. Have you crafted a memorable message? What's in it for me? What is your one big message? Nike shoes are just do it. Just do it. What's your one big message? Barack Obama on his first election night 8 years ago said, yes, we can. Have a call to action. Ask them to do something. So when you go back to your workplace, please check that your occupational health and safety policy and the things you do comply with the legislation. You surprise. This can be amazing data, an unexpected story, something that catches people by surprise, and the surprise puts a hook into your presentation. So all of these things individually are what I call hooks. So they're different hooks. Whoops, I'll just go back. They're different hooks. What's in it for me is one hook, solve a problem, one big message. So as you go through your presentation, keep reiterating what it is you're saying. Nike is just do it. Ask them to do something. Use surprise. If you use data, just make it concrete data. One of the classics, I know that the Brookfield Place, where BHP has their head office in Perth, they've put in water saving measures, and they've saved I think 176,340 sorry, I can't remember. They've saved 6 Olympic swimming pools full of water. People are not going to remember 176,341 or whatever it is. I've just made that number up. I remember the 6 Olympic swimming pools of water each year is saved through water-saving devices. Where does your credibility come from? Where is your data source? World Health Organization, Australian Bureau of Statistics, and of course, Story, which I've mentioned before. Story is a webinar, a workshop in its own right. But the right story, people remember the stories. So this is a memorable message. This is putting hooks into your particular messages. What they say is people don't remember much of what you said. They remember how you made them feel. So if you have a well-crafted story that lets people know there's light at the end of the tunnel, you can now see a way forward in this engineering problem, this dilemma, this conflict at work. You now see light at the end of the tunnel. They're going to remember the story, and they're going to walk away from your presentation enthused, on board, prepared to change or have a go, depending on what the purpose of your presentation is. Have you got the right attitude? When you're at work, it's easy to just get before an audience and do your job. You need to be aligned with your message, your attitude. So this comes with passion, what I call the first date mentality. You know, when you go out on your first date, you go the extra mile. You might buy a new outfit, you get your hair done. I might even trim my beard, polish your shoes. What are you going to do for your audience? The 1%ers, that little bit, you go to the hotel and there's a little chocolate on your pillow, or when you go to bed, someone's been in before and they just roll down your pillowcase. This tuck-in service they do in the Asian countries, it just makes it really special. The the bottled water when you arrive. What is the 1%er you do for your audience that shows your attitude is that you want to be there? I think when you get before an audience as a trainer, facilitator, speaker, you need to think of that as a privilege. And of course, with privilege comes responsibility. And if you work in an area to do with occ health and safety, engineering, mining, and you have a chance to change people's attitudes, you sometimes save people's lives. You know, you alert them to risks, bad behavior, issues that cause concern. Mental health is a big issue in all workplaces. So when you're training and speaking, you do have a level of responsibility. All of these things, the passion, the first date mentality needs to ooze through in your attitude as opposed to just rocking up. Okay, here's another group of people that I need to train. Let's move on. You know, I'm just doing my job 9 to 5. I'm not paid to be happy. I'm not paid to be passionate. I'm just going to do it. Please understand, audiences will not buy your message if you don't show that passion. Yeah, I'm going to pause for a moment. Are there any questions at this stage? What if you don't agree with the message you have to speak about? This is quite a common one, and I know sometimes specifically within government, and I remember when I worked for the health department, the higher authorities would impose a policy down to the hospitals or the branches, and you as manager or HR manager would have to roll out and implement that policy that you fundamentally did not agree with yourself. In reality, my advice is if you don't agree with something, then you may be the wrong person to sell that change management, to sell that new policy. But if you have to, and it's part of your job, then it could be that people are not going to buy your message as well as if you were aligned with the message. You know, with debating, people are able to argue for either side. So when you enter debating competitions, you're on the affirmative or the negative, and the topic is chosen, and you have to argue for it where you may fundamentally be against it. So you need to tap into some passion around that topic, even if you don't fundamentally agree with it, or else hand it over to someone else who does agree with it. What's your body and your eye contact and gestures saying about you? Our Prime Minister has bouncy hands, and as he speaks, he bounces up and down. Do you do gymnastics with your hands? What do you do with your hands when you're not gesturing? Have you got a resting position around the midriff, or do you fall to the fig leaf, or do you fall to this closed, aggressive, you will listen to me? Palms up is, hey guys, I'm really pleased to be here. Let's have a discussion. Palms down is more credible. Eye contact. Are you evasive? Or are you spending time looking at your audience? 3 seconds is the sweet spot. Your eye contact is so important. It's how you build trust. It's how the audience trusts you. And if you're continually looking to the roof or to the floor, people are not going to trust you. And very importantly, your gestures need to be congruent. So same as your attitude, that the passion needs to come out with your message. The gestures need to come out with your message as well. So if you adopt small body language, shy, passive, go to the fig leaf and then say something like, I'm really pleased and excited to be here today, with a soft, timid voice, no one's going to believe you. Your body language overrides your spoken word. If what you're saying and what your body's saying don't line up, the body language unfortunately overrides, trumps, becomes your dominant message. And why do we focus so much on this? This is some research from University of California, Los Angeles campus, known as UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles campus. So what they've shown in looking at students and their lecturers is how do they get their message? And it's about 50% is in the nonverbal communication, about a third is in your voice, and only 10% is in the words you say. So if you're spending all that time crafting, polishing, coming up with better words, and your body language is not appropriate or not saying what you want it to, the words are sometimes meaningless. The words are sometimes lost in your nonverbal communication. This is really old data, but even today people are saying that up to 90%, up to 95%, depending on who you read, of the message comes from nonverbal communication. And your voice was part of the nonverbal communication. The pause, the pace, do you slow down? The pitch. When you want to be approachable, there's an upward swing in your intonation. When you want to be credible, there's a downward turn at the end of each sentence. The volume, softening the volume, increasing the volume. What is your normal volume? Are you normally a loud speaker or you are normally a soft speaker? You know those take-home messages? If you use the opposite of your normal speaking volume, so if you're loud, you drop your voice, or if you're soft and you raise your voice on those points, it has greater impact for the audience. Just by you going opposite to your default volume, if you're a loudspeaker, go soft. If you're a soft speaker, go louder. That has greater impact on your audience. Do you need a microphone? And of course, drink lots of water and take care of your voice. In fact, one of the things with your voice is, do you warm up your voice? If you're riding a push bike, you're going to the gym, you're going to go for a jog, we all stretch and warm up our muscles. Most people I work with, before they go on stage, they do not do their warm-ups. They don't take care of their voice. They don't treat their vocal apparatus as a series of muscles and cartilages that need warming up. Your newsreaders, they do their humming, or they say their nursery rhymes, or Peter Piper picked. They do all of that to get their articulation right. I'm just suggesting do a bit of a warm-up before you go on stage. Do some of this and you'll have a great quality voice. Be comfortable with pause. Are you using the platform effectively? Don't spend your entire time standing behind the lectern. People put up the lectern or a table and they use that as a barrier between themselves and the audience. And I understand you may have a laptop and there may be a screen, but if you can get out from behind the lectern and come and stand in front of the audience, so there's nothing between you, and make eye contact, this is such a powerful thing. It's what you're saying to the audience is, you know, I'm prepared to come out from behind my protected barrier behind the lectern, the table, and be 100% present for you. Use the entire platform. So if this is the stage and you've got the lectern over here, so many people just stand behind the lectern. Come out from behind the lectern, but just don't stand middle. You've got space over here as well. And I like to put a flip chart on one side and maybe a whiteboard on the other side, and then my data projector, my screen will be there. So I'll stand behind the lectern to start with. I'll bring my slides down. I'll stand in the middle and I'll have a discussion. I'll park a question over here, and then I'll illustrate a model or some points over here. then I'll come back to the middle. So it's using the platform for purpose. Please don't do what I call cat on hot tin roof, which is wander aimlessly, and that just means someone who walks to the left, turns, walks to the back, to the right, turns, walks. All of a sudden you get this aimless wandering and you're thinking, why is that person walking from side to side regularly? So when you do get to one side, stay for a moment, pause, settle, reorientate and deliver 1 or 2 minutes content there. Then maybe you'll come back to the middle. Decontamination, this is quite advanced. So the center of the stage is your most powerful and influential position. I use one of the flip charts or one side to deal with my negative stuff or my parking lot. So this will be negative. So when someone asks me something and I'm standing there, or I need to deal with something negative, I will move off to here. That way I'm keeping this center clean. In other words, not contaminated with contentious, with negative, with out of context stuff. Let's park that over here. I'm going to deal with that there. Look, I don't agree with you. I think it's a bit outside of the scope. Come back to the middle. Right, let's get back to my core purpose. And just by stepping forward a little bit towards the audience without getting in their personal space, you can move forward to make a strong point. Then step back to that center position. That's great use of the platform. Platform mechanics, appropriate use of the stage is an art and a science in its own right. I have run a webinar on using the platform, so if that's a topic you'd like me to spend more time on using the platform, please do let me know. PowerPoint slides. I work a bit with health agencies, hospitals and some government agencies where bullet points are the mode of operating. Bullet points are generally shooting your audience to death one bullet at a time. You may have noticed in this webinar there's been no bullet points. I've used models, some pictures, some graphs, some charts, pie charts. The PowerPoint's meant to be an audio-visual aid, so it's meant to show you something that you really can't talk. So no bullet points. Noise is all those transitions. So I could have done this where, you know, bullet point 1 appears, click bullet point 2, click bullet point 3, or the other one is you get those, you know, they go round and round and appear, the fade, so you go bump and then the slide, or you get these blinds that sort of roll down and the PowerPoint slide just rolls down. All of that is noise and doesn't add to the audio visual. I know it's fancy, but there's absolutely no need to do it. Make your slides pop. So your slides should really say what you want them to say straight away. So graphs, photos, models, cartoons, quotations, black your slides in between. I generally don't do this in a webinar, but let me show you what that means. When you hit B on your keypad, so I'm just going to hit B now. I haven't gone away, please. When I hit B, my screen goes black. When I hit B again, my screen comes back. So at some time when you're having a discussion, or let's say someone asks a question not related to your slides, so someone is now asking me about, and this is live, not in a webinar, someone's now asking me about how do you find passion? I can black the slide, stand in the middle of the room, everyone's eyes are now looking at me, and I can talk about the passion. Because if I don't black the slide and I talk about passion, and the slide's about PowerPoint, there's a disconnect between the visual aid and the words I'm saying. And some people are still going to be looking at the PowerPoint slide and their attention's not going to be at me. I spoke about flip charts and whiteboards, negative to one side, parking lot, and your positive, your information, your models, your reveals can be on the other side. Ending quickly, feedback, really important. Every time you speak, get feedback. Make it specific, make it immediate, make it honest. Use an audience member to give you feedback, a friend or a colleague. For your non-verbals, if you are a bouncy speaker and you don't know what to do with your hands, practice in the mirror. Video record yourself. Email a colleague, a coach, your video. They'll give you feedback. Join a Toastmasters club. They will also give you feedback. And I love that quote from Ken Blanchard, the 1 Minute Manager, feedback is the food of champions. 10-step checklist to make sure you've got all aspects of public speaking ready to go for your presentation skills, for your next presentation, for your next seminar. Wrong slide. 2 webinars coming up in July. You'll find them on my website. Workshops all around Perth, Bunbury, Broome, Brisbane. You'll find those on my website as well. So remember, here's the webinar. I needed to remove that old slide. How to present without notes, 3rd of July. So I spoke about that briefly. You're so well prepared that you can plug and play, and 7 tips to ensure your presentation is not boring. So there are 2 webinars, 9 a.m. to 9:30 West Australian time in July. Any last questions?